Before the silence, there was laughter. Our home was small, modest, 3 bedrooms, old hardwood floors that creaked when you walked. But it was filled with warm dinners, bedtime stories, and the smell of coffee and cinnamon rolls on Sunday mornings. At least, that's what I tried to believe. I married John when I was 22. He was older, rugged, the kind of man who didn't say much, but had a voice that could make a room go still. Back then, that felt like strength. I mistook his silence for depth, and his temper for passion. We had our daughter, Lily, 2 years later. And from the moment I held her in my arms, I felt something change. She became my whole world. She had this laugh, loud, pure, like the kind of joy that couldn't be faked. I would do anything to protect her. But I didn't. And that's the truth I've lived with ever since. The signs started small. John would snap at her when she spilled milk. Not just the everyday scolding. I mean snap, like a rubber band wound too tight. His face would twist, his hands would clench, and the air in the room would change. It scared me. It scared her more. I remember once, she was 5. She dropped a plate while helping me dry dishes. It shattered on the floor, and before I could even react, he was already yelling. Not words. Just noise, sharp, violent noise that made her flinch and sob. He didn't hit her that day. Not then. But he didn't have to. The look on his face was enough to haunt her dreams. And mine. I tried to talk to him. I waited until Lily was asleep, her little body curled up with her favorite stuffed rabbit. I sat beside him in the kitchen, my voice barely a whisper. I told him he scared her. I told him he needed to stop yelling. He didn't argue. He just looked at me with those cold eyes and said, "She needs to toughen up." Toughen up. As if childhood wasn't already a fragile thing. The next morning, he bought her a new plate and told her to be more careful next time. He kissed her forehead. And for a moment, I thought maybe he was trying. But he wasn't. He was covering his tracks. It happened when she was 7. She came home from school, quiet. That was strange for Lily. Normally she'd run in, tell me about her day, beg for snacks. But that day, she just went straight to her room. Later, when I brought her laundry in, I saw her changing her shirt. That's when I noticed the bruise, a deep, purple blotch on her upper arm. I froze. She looked at me, her eyes wide and afraid. And before I could even ask, she said, "It was my fault." My throat went dry. "What happened?" I asked. She stared down at the floor. I was being loud, and Daddy said I needed to learn to be quiet. I remember the way my hands shook. The way I felt like my body had split into 2 people, the mother who wanted to scream, and the wife who'd been taught to stay silent. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I told her it would be okay, and I kissed the top of her head, even as something inside me began to die. You might ask, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you call the police? And I've asked myself that 1,000 times. But when you live with someone like John, leaving isn't easy. It's not just the fear, it's the control. He managed every dollar. Every decision. He'd cut me off from my own family years before. Friends stopped visiting because he made them feel unwelcome. He didn't need chains to trap me, he used fear and shame. But none of that excuses me. I should have run. I should have found a way to protect her. Instead, I stayed. I told myself I was watching closely. That I'd step in before it got worse. But I didn't. And it did. She was 8 when I heard it. That scream. It was a sound I didn't know the human voice could make, somewhere between a wounded animal and a soul-shattering. I was in the kitchen. John was in the garage. I thought she was in her room. But when I heard her cry out, I dropped the mug I was holding. It shattered, but I didn't even flinch. I ran. She was in the hallway, curled into a ball. Her hands were covering her face, and she was sobbing so hard her whole body shook. John stood above her, belt still in hand. I saw red. "Stop!" I shouted. He turned to me, unbothered. She was being a brat. Disrespecting me. I moved between them. My body, for the first time, became a wall. Touch her again, and I swear to God. He didn't hit me. Not that day. But the look in his eyes. It was enough. He was daring me to do something. Daring me to take her and leave, because he knew I had nowhere to go. Later that night, I sat in her room, brushing her hair gently as she cried in silence. I remember whispering, "I'm going to get you out of here. I promise." But promises meant nothing without action. I started planning. Slowly. Carefully. I got a part-time job at a bakery, telling John it was just to get out of the house. He liked the extra money and didn't ask questions. What he didn't know was that I opened a separate account in my name. Every dollar I could spare, I stashed away. I reached out to my cousin, Ellen, in another state. We hadn't spoken in years, but I begged her to keep a room ready. I kept a small bag hidden in the garage, just the essentials for me and Lily. But I was terrified every day. If John ever found out. He had never hit me, not yet. But I knew he could. I knew he might. Every time I looked at Lily's face, I saw more than just her bruises. I saw the part of her childhood I could never give back. And that guilt weighed more than anything. One evening, Lily came home from school and went straight to her room. I followed her in. She looked at me, tears already spilling. "Mommy," he touched me. I froze. "What do you mean?" Her voice broke. Like, bad touching. My knees gave out. I crawled to her. Held her so tight I thought I might break her. My whole body was shaking. I couldn't breathe. My daughter, my little girl. And I hadn't protected her. I failed her in the worst way a mother can. That night, I waited until John was asleep. I sat in the dark next to her bed, watching her chest rise and fall. And I made my decision. We weren't going to wait anymore. At 4:30 a.m., I woke Lily up. Told her to dress quietly. I grabbed the hidden bag, the envelope of cash, the keys. We crept out of the house like ghosts. I didn't even leave a note. I drove through the early dawn, hands tight on the steering wheel, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. Lily held my hand the whole way. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. We didn't stop until we crossed state lines. When we reached Ellen's, I broke down in her arms. She didn't ask questions. She just held me and whispered, "You're safe now. You're safe." But the truth is, we weren't. Not yet. Because trauma doesn't care about distance. It took everything I had to walk into the police station and report what had happened. I sat with an officer for 2 hours. I gave details. I handed over Lily's medical report. I told the truth. And still, they doubted. They asked Lily the same questions, over and over. They looked at me like I had waited too long, like maybe I had made it up. But Lily's testimony was solid. Eventually, John was arrested. I didn't even go to the trial. I couldn't. He took a plea deal. He served 6 years. 6 years. That's all. He got 6 years. And my daughter. She got a lifetime of memories she'll never fully escape. Lily stopped talking for a while. She'd wake up crying, sometimes screaming. She hated being touched. She flinched when men spoke loudly. Therapy helped, slowly. I found a specialist who worked with child trauma victims. I went with her to every session, holding her hand before and after. But I couldn't go inside. That was her space. Her healing. And me? I was drowning in guilt. I didn't sleep. I lost weight. I hated myself. How do you live with the knowledge that your silence helped someone hurt your child? That's a question I still don't have an answer to. Lily's 35 now. She has a daughter, my granddaughter, Emma. She's 10. The first time I held Emma, I cried so hard I thought I might collapse. Not because I was sad, but because she felt like redemption. Lily is an incredible mother. Protective. Gentle. Strong in all the ways I wasn't. We don't talk about John much. She never calls him Dad. He doesn't know Emma. He never will. Sometimes, Lily looks at me and says, "I know you were scared. But I forgive you." And I nod. But I still don't forgive myself. I've kept this story buried for decades. I wore shame like a coat. Every time someone said, "You're such a strong woman," I wanted to scream. Because strength isn't staying. Strength is leaving. Strength is protecting. And I didn't. But now, as I near 70, I've realized something. Silence is how abusers win. I'm telling this story now, for every mother who feels trapped, every child who's hurting, every woman who's been told to just deal with it. You're not alone. And it's not your fault. Lily, if you ever read this, I need you to know that I would go back in time, and do it all differently if I could. I would scream louder. Leave sooner. Fight harder. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I failed you. But I never stopped loving you. You're the reason I survived. You're the reason I believe in second chances. And I am so proud of the woman and mother you've become. If you're reading this and you're still in the thick of it, please, don't wait for it to get worse. Don't wait for a scream to wake you up like it did me. There are shelters. Hotlines. Friends who care. Strangers who will help. Leaving isn't easy. It may be the hardest thing you'll ever do. But it could also be the thing that saves your child's life. And your own. Thanks for listening. Like this video and subscribe for more inspirational stories.